Welcome to Half Pint Cooking. Today we are gonna make a dinner. We've been doing a lot of desserts, we've been doing a lot of breakfast. Now we're gonna do dinner. Over the summer, I have the kids, one of their chores every day is each of them have a turn helping me make dinner. So they're learning how to make more food that is good, and even though sometimes they can't do the hard part, there's always something that they can do. And so I just get them busy doing that. Like right now, I'm gonna cut up some onions and some peppers. Oh, did I say we're gonna make sloppy joes?
Nope.
I did not. So I have a sweet yellow onion. I've got my sharp chef knife, so make sure that an adult helps you or does this, or you don't use onions, and that's okay. Most of the time, my kids don't love onions and they don't love peppers, but I think it makes it taste better. And you cook it down so much that you don't really get the chunks in it, it just gives it the flavor. So you don't have to use onions and you don't have to use peppers, but I wanted to show you how to cut them. Anyway, so if you don't use them, that's fine too. So how we cut an onion is it's always good to cut it in half this way. So we've got the stems on that side. Then we're gonna peel it. Do you wanna peel it? Did you know that onions make you cry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully this one doesn't because it's a sweet onion. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut that part off and we're gonna keep this part on. I'm gonna take off one extra layer because it wasn't as good. So some people say there's lots of tips and tricks on how to not cry. A main tip is to buy a sweet onion instead of a hot, or instead of a strong yellow onion or a white onion. But some people say that taking off that extra layer will make you cry more. We'll give it a test. We'll see if we cry over this.
Keep your eyes open the whole time.
Keep them open. I know some people have special glasses or they just breathe through their mouth. Lots of different things that you can try. I'm not here to tell you which one's the best. Okay, what you do is you wanna make sure your knife is sharp, and then you're gonna hold the top and you're just gonna cut like halfway through it this way, just like this, okay? And be very careful. And that's why my fingers are curled in and then my arm is up. So if it goes all the way through, it's not gonna get my arm. Now what we're gonna do,
you cut it all the way through?
All the way through this way, and we just go like this. However size you want. If you want a big dice, do it bigger. We kind of want it smaller because we want them to get really soft. Sorry.
That's a lot of examples.
I know, they're not really straight, huh? I don't have to show off to anybody anymore, except for all of you guys, right? But they don't have to be perfect. So then we can cut it down this way, and look, they're all in these nice little dices, diced onions. That's good. We don't want a ton, and it was a big onion. You do want about a half of an onion for these. Okay, so I use my knife as a scoop, and then I scrape it off into my pan. Now I have a pepper. I've used this pepper for something else. So I've already cored it and I've cut off the stems. A really easy way to cut peppers to make them all the same is that you totally cut off the top and you totally cut off the bottom and you make it flat, okay? So you make it flat and then you can cut it into slices like this. These are a little bigger than julienne slices. We just want a small dice. Okay, so these are gonna be small dice, and then we just line them up this way, and then we cut. A trick to cutting is to keep the top of the knife always touching, your fingers curled in and holding your knife strong like this. And it is really important to have a sharp knife. A sharp knife is actually gonna do you less damage because it's cutting where you need it to, and you don't have to put so much pressure that if you do cut a finger, you're pushing so hard that it will cut your finger also. We have our onions and we have our peppers. And now we have 1 pound of ground beef. I like to buy the big package from Costco and then I just separate it into different sizes. So I just got this. And I put it in. Now we're gonna go over to the stove and we're gonna cook it. When cooking with meat, you try not to touch it with your hands. If you do, just make sure you wash your hands after before you touch anything else. You don't want it to have any cross-contamination. Other ingredients we're gonna need is ketchup, mustard. What does that say? Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire sauce.
And you need some salt and pepper and some brown sugar. So let's go and start cooking this. Oh, I do have to show off this cool little tool that I like to use. And it kind of just breaks the hamburger or the ground beef into smaller pieces as it cooks. Okay, let's go. We want to add some salt. I like to use kosher salt. We're gonna use about 1/4 teaspoon for now, and a little bit of pepper. This is just ground pepper. Probably about 1/8 teaspoon. So you just want to cook it until the ground beef gets all brown and it's not pink anymore. And then that's when it's done, when your hamburger is all the way cooked. Okay, if you can see, there's a lot of grease at the bottom of this and a lot of juices. Some of it's juices from the onions and the peppers. And if you wanted to, you could cook your peppers and onions before you put the meat in and let that soften up a little bit. But this is gonna continue to simmer for about 20 minutes, and so it'll get soft enough. So that's why we put them together. So now, because I don't like that extra fat in my meat and in my sloppy joes, we're gonna dump it into a strainer or colander with a bowl underneath so it catches all the fat and it doesn't put that down the drain. I'm gonna wipe this out with a paper towel to get out that extra grease. Wipe this out. Go fast, it's hot. Be careful if you're doing this. See all that extra fat that we're getting rid of? Now, I'm gonna put this over the sink and just rinse it off to get off that extra fat. And we're gonna let this harden up, and we are going to spoon that out and put it in the garbage once it's cooled down, because we don't want that down our drain. No, so I rinse that off with hot water so that the heat would take it down the drain and not ruin the drain so much. And there wasn't a ton of grease, but it really helps it. So when I first heard of getting your meat wet and cleaning off the grease, I thought that sounded disgusting, but it really helps lighten it and make it healthier. So now we have it back on the stove. We are gonna add 3/4 cup of ketchup. I really like the Hunt's 100% natural ketchup. I'm not gonna measure it because I've done this a lot. Whoa. That's about 3/4 cup. You can just do that way, but you're gonna be squeezing for a long time. So just be careful. So we've got ketchup. We have 2 teaspoons of mustard. Again, I've been doing this a lot, but you can measure it. So I just like to look at it. That looks like a teaspoon, and that looks like a teaspoon. Now we have our Worcestershire sauce. We want about 4 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce is smell it. What do you think?
Smells like...
Kind of sweet, kind of salty. It's a tenderizer for your meat.
It smells like a restaurant.
Smells like a restaurant. Then we're gonna put about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar.
That's weird.
Right. And 1/4 cup of water. And that's all. Now we're gonna turn it down and we're gonna let it simmer for about 20 minutes. I like my sloppy joes, the meat to be a little smaller. Maybe we stopped using the thingy too soon. It's okay. So at this point, if you wanted to make this ahead of time, you can put it in a crock pot and let it just keep warm all day, and then it's ready for when you come home. Or right now you can let it simmer and soak up all that liquid for about 20 minutes. Since we rinsed off the meat, some of the salt could have washed away. So if you want to try it, make sure you blow on it really good, because you can see this is really hot, huh? Okay, we have our sloppy joe mix, and then we have hamburger buns. Honestly, I like the cheapest hamburger bun that you can find. I like that it's just light and fluffy. It's not the big heavy ones. And so it's perfect for kids, and it's just lighter. So we get the bottom bun, and we just carefully put it on. It's really hot. If this is for kids, make sure it cools down a little bit because it gets sloppy, and so we don't want it falling on their hands all over and burning them, right? So that's how we make sloppy joes at our house. I hope you try these and like them as much as we do. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends. Let us know what you'd like us to make next. Thanks.
You still have a piece of hair
I do.
stuck to your lip gloss. Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. It's a cutter metal thing, Mom. Don't you dare put that in.